Hello.
Yeah.
Really cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
Cold and fun.
That's good that you think that of it, because that's what deer hunting typically is cold and fun.
Yesterday morning, I'm glassing up on the pass and I see these deer moving. And I'm like, ooh, there's deer moving. All of a sudden, I just see this person just head down, just hauling ass, wearing shorts and a t-shirt with a pack on. And I'm like, is that Tard? My dad always talks about floating through the woods like the autumn breeze.
So Robert's
when you're
the
275 pounds, I don't know how you do that, but
the Freightliner. It's just like a creeper. You're just kind of up in the corner watching what's going on down there.
Yeah.
You know,
he's like,
he's up there slapping it, pissing all over everything.
Is it warm yet?
How did you know the name of the actor?
I know.
Why did you say his name?
Hervé Villechaize.
You know what pert near means.
If you know what pert near means and you live in America, you're a redneck too.
Welcome to the Log Talk Podcast, brought to you by Pert Near Outdoors. It's that time of year. It's that time of year where we all need to be thinking about, do we have everything we need to hit the woods? Chances are you don't, and if you think you do, you probably could use some more. So how about you go over to thehuntworks.com and check out all the incredible products these guys are carrying. This is a great family, local store. Dan and Steve Dunnigan, a couple hardworking sumbitches. They are now carrying archery equipment, everything from bows to arrows to broadheads, quivers, you name it. So on top of all the great tree stands and box blinds that they're carrying, they're now a full-on archery dealer, and really recommend that you check these guys out for your next big purchase. Head over to thehuntworks.com to see what they've got for sale, or if you're local in the Rochester area, head on over to their store in East Rochester on Dispatch Drive and check them out. They are on social media, The Huntworks, and also online, like I said. And if you purchase anything online, you can use promo code FEEDIN'Em to get 5% off. And that's FEED, FEEDIN, INUM, 5% off. Feed 'em. All right, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Pert Near Outdoors podcast. It's, let's see here. It's pretty much February 1st. Hard to believe the first one's behind us. 2023 is off to a rip and roaring start. This week's episode should be, I think, a pretty entertaining one for you. I was joined by Kevin McCann and Jason Ellsworth. Those two gentlemen, Kevin, this is his first time on the show or first time interacting with us on the podcast. But Jason is becoming a regular, and so everybody should know who Jason is. But these two guys started their own podcast, and they're just a few episodes in, and they were gracious enough to invite me on to join them for a discussion, and also allowed me to use that audio to share on ours to help get the word out there about their podcast. So these guys are both pretty unique. Jason is, as you know, now a professional cook, traveling around to hunting camps around the country and soon internationally. And Brian, I keep wanting to call him Brian. I was a big Braves fan, still am a Braves fan, and Brian McCann was one of my favorite players. So sorry, Kevin. Kevin is a recently, I guess he's probably still a butcher, but he just retired, sold his business. He was a butcher up in the Rochester area, McCann Meats, and just recently got out of that line of work. But he comes at this with a whole another angle from the butchery side. Not a hunter yet, but Jason is working hard to get him into that. So we just had a really fun conversation, as you guys expect from us here, with not too guided, just kind of rolling with the punches. Me getting to know them a little bit more, as well as them getting to know me a little more. And it was just definitely fun to share some stories, talk about some different stuff in different sectors of life, and share some thoughts and opinions. So definitely a fun chat. Hope you enjoy, and check out their podcast called Meeting Podcast, MEATING podcast. Be careful if you go on YouTube and search Meeting. I'll bet you'll be happy with the video that comes up when you start typing that search in. I'll leave it right there, and And if you do find that, make sure to send me some sort of an acknowledgement that you searched, because I think it'll be pretty hilarious and pretty shocking. Let's see. So that's that on this week's show. Housekeeping items. Shedfest is up and running. It's, I guess we're about a weekend, full weekend to signups. So if you're new to us and new to what Shedfest is a shed hunting contest that this will be our 3rd year doing it. It's pretty simple to enter. All you do is go onto our website, pertneroutdoors.com, and purchase the Shedfest t-shirt. I will be getting the order together and then placing it all at once. So you will be buying the shirt up front, and then I will be ordering the shirts probably mid-March, maybe end of February, mid-March, and would expect to have them end of March, beginning of April to ship them out. So what it is, just a shed hunting contest. You get out there, find sheds, doesn't matter where you are. You don't have to be local here in New York. Anywhere across the country, mule deer, whitetail, blacktail, Coues deer, even if you want to include that. Any of the deer species can be included across North America and Canada for that factor. I never thought about that, but any of our Canadian friends of the North that want to join are more than welcome. And just simply a photo contest for this portion of Shedfest, and any sheds you find, you can either tag us in the pictures on Facebook or Instagram, share them in your story, send them to us directly, however you want to do it, and I will keep catalog of all those pictures. Or if you're not on social media, you can just send us an email or text the pictures over, and I will keep them together. And then at the end, what we'll do is we'll have the category for the best match, the best side, and the best deadhead. And I've kind of starting to put together prize packages. We got all the same sponsors from last year with the addition of a few more. So for the best match, what we're going to do is we're going to do a muzzle loader. It'll probably be a 50 cal muzzle loader with a scope. I'm thinking a CVA Wolf, and we'll put a nice SIG scope on that from our buddy David Knabb, who is an FFL. We'll go through him for that, as he's hooked us up with the last couple for raffles. So that'll be sponsored by Pert Near Outdoors. That item will be, so that'll be the best match. Pretty good value, I think. The second prize is sponsored by Trophy Line, and I think we'll have the Huntworks probably in on that one. The Huntworks is carrying some of Trophy Line's saddle gear. So we got the Trophy Line saddle pack. That was helped put together by Sean Livermore, who is the Western New York Saddle Hunter on Instagram. He is affiliated with Trophy Line, and that prize will be probably, I'm thinking, that pack, and then maybe we'll try to get either some Trophy Line sticks or maybe a platform, maybe both from the Huntworks. So that'll be what that is. And then the third prize will be for the best deadhead. I'm thinking we'll do the Steel electric pruner, a little battery operated pruner, chainsaw pruner, handheld Jesse that Whitetail Landscapes is donating. So that's 3 pretty good prizes. And then all the other stuff we're going to get together, we're going to have for door prizes, and we'll have the same categories at the in-person event on the 23rd at Windy Brew, April 23rd. We're going to have lots of prizes for that event there. So door prizes, as well as prizes for the best sheds that are physically brought in, which we will measure by actual tape there the day of, and crown some winners. So looking very much forward to it. If you've not signed up yet, please do. I want to try to get a good head count of how many people we've got in. And if you could tell a friend, we're trying to make it bigger than it was last year. I know I'm seeing some new names sign up, which is cool. Some people that I've never interacted with before, so it's interesting to see the spread happening, which is awesome. But need your help. Get on there and sign up. I've seen a few issues on the store. It looks like there's been some abandoned carts with transaction errors. So if you're having some sort of problem, just reach out to me, however it is that you communicate with me, and let me know if you're having a problem. We can either do it offline, find a different way to make it work if there's some sort of an issue with the paying system. I'm not sure what's going on there, but keep me in the loop. So that is that. I guess one of the other things on the housekeeping end, I'm starting to, anybody who does pay attention to politics the legislative session is now began here across the country, but particularly for us here in New York. And a bunch of the bills, I'm learning how this process all works. But if something is floated last year and it doesn't come to the floor or it doesn't get voted on or whatever the situation is, a lot of times those same individuals will bring those bills back up and try to put them through in this session. So I've seen two that I'm paying attention to. One was the lead ammunition ban. That's one I'm watching. I'm trying to think what the hell the other one was. I can't think of what the other one was now, but that bill is one that I know we did a podcast on last year talking about that. I'm not opposed to the transition to non-lead ammunition, but the issue being that I really don't. The number one issue is that there's no viable replacement right now for lead ammunition that is cost effective and easily available to purchase to replace what you're using today. So the whole point of the bill is that you can't use lead ammunition on any state-owned land or New York City watershed, because of the concerns of lead contamination. I understand the concerns. All the stuff I've listened to, I don't think there's been any direct correlation to lead poisoning or lead in water from any ammunition or, shooting sports or waterfowling, anything like that. So I know that this is a transition that happened in waterfowling many years ago, and there's some good replacements available in that field. But when you get into rifle rounds and shotgun rounds for slugs and that, there's just not a ton of options out there, and we're not seeing a lot of these manufacturers get into those fields. So something interesting to watch. I'm sure we might have another podcast on that coming up here. But the easiest way I'm finding to interact on any of these bills is to go on to New York State Senate, go to the website. You just go to Google and search New York Senate. It's very simple. You create an account, and then you can actually, any of these bills that are up, you can actually follow them. And if there's any updates or anything, it'll send you an email, and you can actually personally yay or nay the bill itself. And then you can write any sort of comment in there, and it'll go directly to your representative. And typically you'll hear back from them with some sort of an automated email or someone from their staff, and can even open up some more dialogue with those individuals if you have any further thoughts there. So 'tis the season. I hate to do this to you, but it's something that we all kind of need to do. We need to voice our opinion and be engaged on that sort of thing. And as annoying as it is and as frustrating as some of this stuff is, if we don't say anything, then we're not being heard. And the folks that want to, whether it is, see us lose some of our way of life or whatever the motive is there, we all can have our opinions on it, but we really got to stand up for this and explain our reasons and voice our opinions. So that's what I got for you. Enjoy the upcoming week. It looks like we're starting to get into the doldrums of winter. It's getting cold. We finally got snow on the ground here, which is nice. And hopefully the deer will be dropping their horns soon. We pulled the camera and finally got a bunch of bucks on camera in a different spot, different area of the farm. So definitely encouraged to see that. And hopefully we'll be finding some sheds here in the next 3-4 weeks. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Make sure you check out the meeting podcast and keep feeding them.
That's intro music right there.
Stop talking.
I'm on to talk.
I'm going to have to mute him next time.
It's legit.
This is Nick Wheelahan right here. At Slevin Wheels on all your social medias.
Slevin Wheels.
All right, boys. Welcome, Billy.
Yeah.
Talk to me.
We're doing a swapcast here.
Yeah.
Pertinier Outdoors podcast meets the meeting podcast. Is that right? Meeting?
Yeah. I mean, it's so like a three-way menage.
We're meeting.
There a thing?
Yeah.
I don't think we need to.
Well, since I'm this close to Jason and we were talking about uncomfortable touching when I first got here, I don't think I want to.
Keep my hands to myself underneath the table.
Yep.
Good advice.
Yeah.
At all times. Keep your
times.
hands and arms inside the train at all times.
Yeah. Yep. Billy Harvey, not Billy Pertinier, as my wife thought it was for a long time.
Yeah, so
She really
let's-
did think that.
Oh yeah.
So
It
let's
was
go.
funny.
Let's start from the beginning because another piece of feedback that I got was introduce your damn selves. All right, so welcome to on my end an episode of The Meeting. I am Kevin McCann. That is Jason Ellsworth.
Introduce yourselves, or let somebody else introduce you for them.
I see what you're doing there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he totally just.
Yeah.
That's okay. Just
I'm going to work on not cutting him off today.
yeah. And
he's
he was
gonna-
in the middle of talking, and you
He's
cut
going
him
to be
off.
respective of my person. I'm Jason Ellsworth.
That's great.
Of what? I mean, do you have a thing?
Yeah, I'm Ellsworth Cooks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Ellsworth Cooks.
I take care of hunting and fishing camps all over the country. Yeah, I relieve the host of their duties. I let guys stay in the field as long as they can, so I can, take care of them. They're coming back to badass hot food, and I'm there to tell and hear stories.
I love that.
Yeah,
Little cookie, little camp cook.
Yep.
Enjoy passing along the knowledge that you have, getting some knowledge from the folks that come through camp.
it's a neat thing that it's super collaborative all the time. It's not just here's how it is. It's learning from those guys and how they do things a little differently, and showing those guys how I might do things a little differently. And it's a pretty neat thing that we all kind of raise each other up together.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And tear each other down.
Well, that's important. You have to tear things down to build them up.
You do. So we're gonna do a little both of that today.
I think we should. Yeah.
So let's also introduce the person we're going to be sharing our podcast with today. Billy, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, about your podcast, and everything that's going on in your world, man?
Yeah. So my name is Billy Harvey. I'm the host of the Pert Near Outdoors podcast. We started our show back in, I think it was 2019, mainly focused around deer hunting and conservation is kind of the main things that we talk about. But anyone who is, I feel like, multifaceted, I think as you grow as a person, your interests and the things that you focus on and what's important to you evolve and change, especially if you have a young family and things like that. So my show has kind of evolved quite a bit from the first year that we started. So we're year 3 now, I guess. And things have just kind of continued to evolve. And there's things in my life that are changing and interests that are changing. So it kind of makes me think differently about what I want to talk about, the people I make connections with. And ultimately, that's one of the biggest pieces of our show is just making connections with people and building friendships and a community. I think that's ultimately what, not that anybody necessarily needs to go out and find new friends, but like, I feel like one of my talents is that I'm a networker, and I love to meet people and I like to make connections with people. And then it's interesting because that's the same way that the three of us have now met each other, is just through Jason's abilities to do those same things. And that's why I immediately gravitated to him. And then now meeting you, and I look to learn and grow and become friends with you as well, because you have a lot of skills and things that can help someone like myself who's passionate about food and feeding people and butchering. Like, that's something that I was really excited to, get and talk to you about and pick your brain about. But that's what I do with a podcast, in a long rendition of it. But I sell school buses by day. That's my career and my.
I love that. Let's get more into that. Tell me more about that.
Well, you're in the Pittsford School District, correct? So the school buses that your kids ride to school, I sell them. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But my world, and talking about how things just evolve and change, like my world is over the last calendar year, especially almost exactly a year ago, there was mandates put in place here in New York to electrify all school buses in New York State. Starting July 1 of 2027, every vehicle that's sold by a dealer to a school or an operator has to be zero emission. And that has totally thrown our industry completely sideways, because nothing is there yet. The technology is not there yet. The infrastructure is not there yet. So in a very short period of time, in a 12-year, like, my interests, like, I can't solely worry about whether a buck is living on my property or not. Like, now my life is consumed by understanding things much bigger and larger.
Yeah, like you said to me today, you have a real job. Like,
that was messed up.
That was
it was uncalled for.
But that was a shot. I took a shot at you, and obviously it hurt.
Direct hit.
Yeah. He's big and sensitive.
He is.
I am. Sorry,
It's
that
good.
was a
That's
loud
why I love
sigh.
you. That's why I love you. You're
You're
really
vulnerable. Like you watch any of these like marriage shows or anything,
Mm-hmm.
like you're just so vulnerable. Like
he's a really good.
I look at my wife and I go, "Why? What does that even mean?" And she's like, "I don't know.
I don't know.
I'm not vulnerable."
I do have an interesting electric car story.
Do you?
Yeah.
Sure.
So a gentleman bought a new Ford Lightning, which is pretty badass. It's badass, right?
In Naples?
No, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
And he had to make it to Iowa in which is not, I think it's 16 hours or something like that. Guess how long it took him to get from Pennsylvania to Iowa in his electric Lightning?
Like 4 days?
Like 7 days.
No kidding.
Yeah, because logistics.
Yeah.
of figuring out where to stop to
Sure.
charge.
Right. It was a nightmare. And he was doing this whole thing to blow up the fact that he got this truck and that a piece of equipment he makes fits on this truck. And he's like, I'll be there in 3 days. And then missed.
No, you won't.
He drove. It took him 7 days to get there. And then missed the entire thing he was supposed to show up to with that truck.
The electric car thing is
So,
hard, right?
it's super hard.
Because you notice there's a lot of new construction around here,
Mm-hmm.
and so I've noticed a lot of these people are having the
Ports,
charging stations put into their houses. And one of my mentors is an electrician. He's taught me how to do a number of things, and is one of my favorite people in the entire world. And he came here and he was like, "Yeah, good luck with that, because if enough people do that, it's a good thing you got a generator because your power grid's going down quick."
Yeah.
Yeah, because the main power that was run into this development was not built to suit that.
No.
Right.
But anyways,
Yeah.
It's
Crazy.
It's a fascinating world right now.
sure is.
It sure
Things
is.
are moving fast.
Yeah.
And so here we are. So this is going to be kind of like our third or fourth or fifth get together.
Yeah. It's like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
But
So how long have you been doing this?
It's been since the fall of 2019 so it would have been September of 2019 was our first show. And we've come a long way. I mean, look, we were talking about when I first got here, the equipment that you've got and the setup you have. When I first started, I was using just a Rode, or not a Rode. I just did the Ellsworth thing. What is that? It doesn't matter. A Zoom H6 was what I started with.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we had lapel mics that we didn't understand needed to have a power source in order to actually
no
get
kidding.
good audio.
Yeah.
And then we had the boom mic that attaches an H6 is what you're supposed what reporters use when they're out in the field, sticking it in people's faces.
Yep.
And just where we have come with the show since, and it's been a lot of fun, but finding different ways. I think one of the hardest things as a podcaster to do is how do you get in front of an audience? How do you get people to start listening to you? And it is really hard because it is a saturated market right now.
Sure.
So that's one of the things I'm interested with you guys is what the driving factor is behind what you are looking to do with your show, but then also what your game plan is of how you get out there and start getting it in front of people.
Sure. I mean, I think one of the first things is really the technological hurdles to figure out, right? Where do you want to record? What are you going to record with? What do you already have, right? And so a lot of the stuff that as I was researching and figuring things out, your iPhone is good a resource as you have, and it's with you all the time, right? So that's kind of where I started, and kind of figuring out some things beyond that. And as Jason and I have talked about, I'm a deep down a rabbit hole kind of guy, so I dove, and here we are. But it's been a ton of fun. And that aside, so then we got stuff on files, right? We had video, we had audio, and then getting things edited was just kind of okay. And I'd been fooling around with some Instagram stories and some things like that, both while the business was open, and then even more so when we closed, as I was kind of just doing stuff with my kids and whatnot. Mm-hmm. Which was just a fun activity with them, right? And I was using a program, just a little weird app on my phone. And then obviously getting into this meant I was going to need to do something a little bit more professional style, right? So, dove into some software. And so here we are. But, Jason and I both are like-minded and sort of skilled as far as where we come from with food. So I mean,
food.
So
Not this.
So
this is whoo.
So like go into the food part of it, because like I know that's what you're excited about.
Yeah, I think like that's kind of. You ever see like in somebody's story or whatever when they get in front of a camera? People ask me all the time. People ask me all.
Nobody's asking.
Nobody's asking.
No, there's nobody.
But people are asking me all the time for real about last night, and we were talking about this earlier on today. Like I do feel indebted to a lot of people in my life. And when they reach out to me and ask me questions, I feel like I should give them a few minutes of my time to help them through their process. But that happens a lot. And I'm starting to realize like it's really not unfair to the people in the room with me at the time.
Right, because you're not paying attention to them.
Right, it's not paying attention to them. I'm not like in the moment. Last night, my wife and I haven't had dinner together in a week, and I'm cooking dinner and we're kind of hanging out. And one of my buddies, who I love dearly, reaches out to me. He's like, "What oil do you use for steak?" And and then my gears start going up like, how you doing it? And it just keeps going down the rabbit hole. And then it's back and forth. It's, unfettered access through texts and social media and all that stuff. That's like, I think if we can put it into like one neat bow and put it out into the world, it might help me.
Yeah, it's like a constant stream of information. And if people are following, if they're obviously interested enough to be interacting with you, they will start to consume and follow along with what you're doing. So if you're putting good information out there for them in whatever your medium is, then you don't have to be bogged down with the constant individual messages. But I find it's so interesting you say that, because I find myself the same way. Like for like year 1 and 2, like 2018, we started our Instagram, and then that's when we like a year later we started the podcast. And like I look back at my stuff from back then, and I was posting. It was just constant phone in front of my face, like videos in the story, and like just projecting all this stuff out there. And then in 2020, my daughter was born, my second child. She was born, and of course it's during the pandemic, and like you have all this time on your hands because you're not going to work. And my wife hit me with something that it will stick with me forever, and it probably changed my life. And she's like, I feel like you're just not present at home.
Yeah.
And like, I was like, oh, like in the moment, I'm like, you kind of like get a little defensive, like, no way. Yeah. And then you start reflecting on that, and you're like, oh my God, like I'm sitting here, and I'm constantly, incessantly checking my phone, messaging with people that, like, it's not that they don't mean anything to me, but they're not as important as this woman and these two kids.
It's a whim to them.
Right.
And I also think this is a slippery slope, because I don't want to sound like I'm just like not grateful for those interactions, but at the same time, like I don't know how to like shut that part off, and it does put me in front of my phone a lot. And it's funny to me too that I have good friends that when I'm like at work now, like when I'm bartending at Greenfront or whatever, like that sign says, phones are for emergency use only. And I'm like, you know what? I'm not above this. And like, I'm going to shut my phone off for the next 8 hours, whatever it is, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And then I have friends like, hey dude, like I text you like 4 times today and you respond to me. I'm like, yeah, sorry about that. And it's like understood during hunting season. I give you shit a lot of hunting season. If you're texting me during like 4 to 6 p.m. during hunting season, we're fighting.
Like, we can't be friends.
I'm probably in the woods. It's like I'm ultra focused, and if my phone is buzzing, and it's weird too because the phone is a safety mechanism while hunting. Like you kind of gotta have on, or like the ability to be able to use it. And it is a tool, but at the same time, it's
a distraction.
It's a total distraction. There's nothing worse. Have you ever stood up like drawing a bow and having your phone buzz in your pocket?
Yeah, that's why I put it on complete mute.
It's such a good. I mean. But you forget to do that, and it's like, dude, how do you not know me as a person well enough to like understand that I'm probably doing something like you live for that hour and a half, like that's
so basically Apple. This is us telling you to put a hunter focus on the next iPhone update, so that all of our hunting friends can be out, still feel safe, do everything that they need to do, but not deal with my dumbass texting Jason while he's in a tree stand.
Just automatic response instead of it saying I'm driving, it says I'm hunting.
Yeah,
I'll call you back.
Don't be dumb. You know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
learn your hunting seasons and understand that I'll be doing that.
Mm-hmm. But I think there's a lot of that going on. Like I talk with a lot of my friends, and we're all kind of in that same stage of life, and everybody's kind of stepping back a little bit from the phones and becoming more aware of how much they're using these things, how much we're interacting, looking at email, looking at this. Like,
it's going to be interesting to see how this is looked back upon, in 20 years. Like, oh man, those kids shouldn't have been buried, because I was of the age where, I grew up without a tablet in front of me, and like I remember, out of sight, out of mind. Like, go outside and play.
Yeah. Don't
be in here. Where now it's like, here, just like, it's a pacifier. It's a digital pacifier, and it is going to be weird to see, but it is cool because from like one aspect of it, like these kids are learning video editing and doing all this stuff that like on TikTok that could be pretty badass. But it is like walk into a restaurant and look at a group of 30-year-old kids, like every single one of them is buried in their phone.
For us, that's the carrot for us right now, right?
Because you get the phone if you do these things.
Wait, not even the phone, right? Because my kid doesn't want to play with it. So I've got a now 9 and a 6-year-old.
Okay.
And the 9, both of them. And so one of the things, so we closed our business, and one of the reasons I love talking to guys, dads, fathers, family men, all of it, and people who are enthusiastic like you just talked about, who are looking to put the energy where they may have devoted it into other facets of their life and refocusing it into the most important thing and the most important investment that they have around them, which is their family, right? And because that's where I'm at, and so I love having that around me. And so my 9-year-old and my 6-year-old, that's what they want to do. Is they, if I let them, if it was just, you got free reign to do whatever you want to do, devices, right. And when the business was open, they would just be in the office with iPads or on YouTube or on the Nintendo Switch. And my wife and I looked at each other and like, this is not,
it's not good.
This is not living for the. They're still doing activities and whatnot, but like living in this small box while mom and dad have to do things, that's not really a childhood. So stepping away from that is where we really needed to be. And yeah, man, like the more I started doing some building over the summer, right? Like a little bit of I told my wife, I'm like, look, I'm going to put some money into buying some tools. And she was like, why? And I was like, because number one, we have some things around the house that we need to fix, some things that we could use to have built, so on and so forth. And besides, the less I'm on the TV, on my device, on a video game, the less the kids are, period. Like you can't deny that. So let me set a better example. Let me do that. And so all summer long, all fall long, I didn't even have to convince them to do it. They were just like, oh, you're outside, so let's just go chill. And so that's what we did. And, then to try to incorporate some of their interests, started videoing stuff, started editing videos with them for reels going onto Instagram and things like that, and like caught their attention, and they thought that was fun. So, I mean,
that's cool.
I'm no genius, but try to meet them somewhere in the middle to figure some shit out.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, it's like, okay, look, we got 45 minutes before bedtime. You got all of that for Nintendo Switch. I won't bother you for 45 minutes. And you know what that gives me? 45 minutes of quiet time.
Yeah.
And I'm into it.
Right.
Yeah. It's fun for me to look back, like look at those situations where I see like those small hits of dopamine that just keep I do it like that's like keeps me interacted, where I caught myself doing this morning. I was on Instagram for social media for 45 minutes this morning, and I was super pissed at myself. I'm like, well, I just did 40, like what a waste. And then I realized I banged my knee pretty hard. I'm icing my leg right now. And then what's the difference between being on social media, reading a book, or watching TV? And it's different, but it's odd to me to feel guilty about that. But also, if you're feeling guilt, it's probably because you're not doing something right.
Yeah, you just should be doing something else.
But in this incident today, it was like, I needed to sit down and ice my knee because I'm old, and I hit my knee really hard the other day, and it is swollen.
I'd like to point out though, this is 2 recording sessions in a row where you've referenced bumping into something with your knee.
I'm
you need to be
clumsy.
a little bit more careful.
I think it was the same knee issue that I had the other day. It's the same knee. Yeah, nothing's changed. We're just in
So
that time.
so you're just still whining about the same thing.
I think so. I think that's what he's
If
doing.
you guys had this knee pain, you'd be crying on the floor right now. I know that I'm tougher than both of you guys.
Pain
All
tolerance.
right, here we are. It's 2022. Jason.
Yeah.
I recognize your pain.
Fucking bastard. Let's talk about
Where were we going before
we
that
were talking
recognition?
about how tablets take away and how there's real life things that are fun, like cooking, that think about, like I can think about, like the last time I was completely in the zone is me in the kitchen, where it's like I can tell you the best meal I've cooked in the past year and a half and how much fun that was to be completely, not distracted by anything else, and having people respect that, like, that guy's in the zone, and that is a cool thing to be. And I think that's what if folks understood that'd be the thing they were chasing.
Sure.
Not the immediate little ding 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 dings.
Well, I think that's what all of like what.
But it's hard.
It
It's
is hard.
It is
And
hard.
it requires practice, and it requires dedication, and it requires,
Sure.
Understanding that it's going to be uncomfortable and that you're going to be bad at things, and and like that hit to your ego, and you got to just like. So if you don't have that in your life already, then you're not.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of the reason I'm doing this, is to hopefully facilitate folks into doing more, gaining that little bit of confidence. When we're talking about pemmican today, like, I've never made pemmican. You've made it. I can guarantee that after I've made it once, I'm going to have super confidence to do it again, and it's going to get better.
Yeah.
And how often do people put themselves in those situations now where they are like, I don't know how to do this, and it's such an easy task to, like, for you, or, for you, like, that it's like, how do you not have the confidence to do that? And it just basically putting yourself out there over and over again.
Just jump, man.
Yeah.
Just jump.
Yeah.
Like,
I think, but that's like a human nature thing. I think once you get comfortable and jump on one thing, now you're like way more likely to jump and start trying to do something else.
Yeah.
But like if you're stuck in that rut, which so many are, and I've been there, like, and I'm there daily, like you're always trying to like keep yourself on that path. Like it's so hard to stay focused on it. But once you've done something and you're like, yeah, like I ran a marathon, like now I'm not even scared to run a marathon. It's like if you told me I had to run a marathon this weekend, I'd be like, I'd figure it out.
Yep.
Because you did it
not
once.
me. I do not.
Well, he has a bad
I
knee.
do not condone the marathon.
bumped it.
Yeah.
Whaled it on a locker.
Now it's a whale.
Yeah. It was a whale.
And it was a locker.
Humpback.
You think I'm lying to you?
No.
You want to see my knee?
I'm just listen.
No, your pants are too
Have
tight.
you
We don't
ever-
wanna-
These are
You'd have to go down from the top.
nice pants.
Have you ever heard the story of the one-armed fisherman? He caught a fish that was this big. Like I'm just like that's kind of where your story's
Just
going. That's all I'm
open-ended
saying.
is all. Just, I got you.
That fish was this big.
Okay.
I get it.
So tell me about so food.
Thank
Pert
God we're
near
talking about food.
hunting. You're an avid hunter, and one of the things that we're excited to kind of talk about is the difference of vocabulary, techniques, traditions that go on when you are coming from an outdoors and hunting tradition, most likely handed down familial or, from friend to friend and so on and so forth, that level of tradition versus restaurant tradition, classically trained technique, so on and so forth, and where those two worlds meet and how a lot, bam,
Meeting.
Yeah.
So, talk to us about your experience with harvesting your venison, and where you've been going with it, some challenges that you've been having, some things that you want to grow into and learn. And
Do you prefer harvest or kill?
I think
they're two things.
it depends on the conversation and who your audience is. I think if you're trying to talk to people about providing your own meat, I think harvesting is better received.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we can't ignore the fact that we're killing something to
Do you
eat it.
think that you should dumb down what you're doing for the candid audience?
Yeah, in a way I do. I think today.
I'm not saying whether it's wrong or right.
It's a fascinating question
because I catch myself I catch myself saying harvest a lot, and harvest is I'm masking something.
So from a butchery standpoint, from a restaurant and butchery standpoint, I look at it and say they're two separate things that are both part of the process, right? No matter what, there's a kill. Right. Whether that happens in a slaughter facility or that happens in the wild.
Nature.
In nature.
Oh, man.
That is what happens.
Yeah.
Right? Whether or if you're just eating tofu, there were animals that were killed in the process of
harvesting
of producing
or whatever.
of raising and producing your soy.
But I think it's,
long story short, so what I'm trying to say is there's always a kill. To me, it's are you harvesting?
Yeah.
Are you taking advantage of that kill and utilizing what is there for you to consume?
You're harvesting the meat off of that animal.
And to me, there's levels of harvest, right? Yep. There's guys that just go for the back straps. There's guys that are just grinding everything. There's all the levels that you and I have talked about, Jason, right? And then so like that's to me where I start to talk to other hunters and go, okay, so like what is the project that you're excited about? What's the next culinary step for you that you're excited about trying to take, and who is it that you're going to go to and to try to get that? Because like I like that about hunting in that it is like there's a lot of secret to it, but there's also there's a camaraderie and there's a mentorship there, which I think is invaluable.
I think that's the idea of what we're doing is to be good stewards.
Right.
That there's nothing more exciting to me to like. It's something I very much look forward to is like getting a bow in your hands and like hunting with you. Like it's something I very much look forward to because just doing the meat the other day, where my buddy's got a place not too far away from here that there's two old guys that have been processing meat for 40 years, 45 years. I learned more from those two and they are looking at me like I'm the expert, like I'm coming in. Yeah. But, the way they're doing their burger, the way they're stuffing their, like, oh, wow, I never thought of doing that. But that shit, like, those guys aren't on social media. They're not writing books.
No.
They're not, like, all that stuff is leaving with them. So as long as I'm invited to, like, spend time with those guys, I'm all ears. Because there's something to be learned that those guys, really, I don't know if they want to share it, if they need to share it, but that book is closing on those guys. And nobody's recording it. And it's so, when I get invited to those places, I'm like, I got invited back this Friday and I'm like, yep, I'll be there. And it's, if I'm washing dishes in the corner and can listen to what those guys are talking about, and it's not all of it because they're so wrong on so many things, but there's some things that are like, wow, I never thought of doing that. And if I leave there with 3 or 4 things that are like valuable pieces of information that I can pass along because I am on social media and I am like I am in the business of being a steward for what I do know and how to successfully kill, harvest, put meat on the table for yourself. Like that's kind of where my life is bumping me right now. Mm-hmm. But
yeah. I mean, I think this is the question, what we do as hunters, we're such a small portion of the population. The majority of people in this country eat meat, but they don't have a connection to where it came from.
Right.
And I think one of the biggest things and the problems that we have in the outdoor space with hunters in particular is that we don't express ourselves properly. And we've been given this tool with social media that we can literally at the click of a button, we could go live and show us killing an animal or processing the animal. It's like, what does that look like to somebody who's walking by your window out front of your house and looks in and goes, oh my God, what are they doing to that thing that's hanging from the ceiling?
Right.
Like I listened to a podcast yesterday. I won't go into the whole thing, but it was a guy who was talking about hunting, but using a metaphor of a fraternity house to explain hunting. And it was like, it resonated. And he's trying to get this point across that there are things going on inside of this house that you don't necessarily want the public to see. The neighbors, if your blinds were open and they saw what you were doing in the house, they would be disgusted because they don't understand what you're doing. You have to express what you're doing like you're trying to explain it to your mother who could never hurt anything.
I think I that analogy really works, and I think the key to making it look good to everybody is reverence for the animal, like to show that like
And
this
the
was
whole
alive.
process.
This was alive. The entire process, like from the grip and grin, making sure there's not like crap all over its face, making sure there's not blood everywhere, making sure its tongue's tucked away, like smiling in that picture to know that like you just took something to sustain you. And then the next step, like, all right, I'm going to treat this meat like gold and make sure it gets into my freezer and consumed. And that's a step every piece of it along the way to like open that freezer, relive that, like, this was, this is sustaining me. This means something.
Right.
And I think you're right. A lot of hunters don't express that because they grew up in a certain way. It's like,
It's barbaric. It's right.
And I've seen both.
Yeah.
Right. And I've seen both be the guys that want to fill their freezers.
Yeah.
Right. So they're also looking to harvest. Right.
Yeah, some of those guys don't
So-
care what you think. And
so
it's,
the truth of it is, and this is something that, is part of sort of everyday society now too. And that person exists. That person isn't 100% great. They're not 100% wrong. Neither am I. And the interesting part is, how is it that I can engage with this person, not necessarily with my intent to change their mind, because that's selfish on my part. Why would I want to change their mind?
Yeah.
They should want to change their mind or not, and it's up to them. But on some level, you have to separate the art from the artist in a lot of people, right? And I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
And but I agree with your thing on presenting yourself well, and that happens in the butchery space as well. Because same thing in the butchery space, there's been a lot of social media going on inside of our, atmosphere. And long story short, some of us are there to try to promote some of the really artistic ways that we can try to market meat and some of the fun recipe driven things that we can do. And some people are so jaded by the idea that people have lost their connection, that there is that separation. They're jaded by it to a point where they feel obligated to put it in your face very blatantly and trying to jar you. They're trying to shock you. And I understand why they're trying to do it,
Right.
but their motivations and what they're going to accomplish from it is not going to be what they want.
yeah, I think
You're not bringing people in. You're not including people. You're further pushing people,
which
away.
is from the hunting world is exactly what we don't need. I think that's for if you have a voice in the hunting world, you should be leading by example. This is my opinion, is that I understand why my old man from Dansville is like, screw them, let me. I don't. Here's how it looks, and I get that he doesn't care, that he's not being accepting of the world, but I also get that like this is from my aspect, like this isn't a guaranteed way of life, and there's folks that don't. Going down the route, my old man and my father-in-law last night and I were talking about the PFAs and the freshwater fish. Did you see that?
PFAS?
PFAS, yeah. So my father-in-law is a freshwater fish consumer to like a next level. Like he, fishes to feed himself. Like they eat a ton of fish. Like where I have a freezer full of venison, he's got a freezer full of fish. And I asked him last night, and I was trying to like, because we've known about it for a week, that if anybody doesn't know that the forever chemicals, whatever, are being found in freshwater fish on like dangerous levels across the country, rivers and lakes. So the government is saying that if you consume one meal of freshwater fish, you are now consuming a month's worth of contaminated water. from one meal. Did you know this?
No, this is news to me.
It's scary. But
paint me surprised. I mean, do you want me to put my surprise face on?
no.
Okay.
But I also think like there's a reason that first of all, like this is studies from 2015.
Sure.
Right. It's old news.
How much worse has it gotten?
Right. How much worse, or has it gotten worse? And like, at what point do you step back and say, like, do the controlling entities have a vested interest in having people not supply their own meat? And the answer to that is, yeah, sure shit do. Yeah, of course. If you control food population, you can start control. And how many, like, when the message over and over again is that farms and cows are we all agree climate change is a real thing, but when you start sitting back and pointing the finger of like what's doing it, and from one side of it, it's like, oh, it's the farms and it's the cows that are doing it. Like, really, it's not the jets and the diesel engine. Like, it's not all those.
It's not the ships sailing from
right.
side of the world to the other.
It's not the avocados that you're flying from California all over the world to put fresh greens on your plate. It's so me asking him that question and not fully thinking of the rabbit hole that was going to open, but knowing like it's as big of a deal for him as it gets. Right?
It's everything to him.
He's a medical sales rep. He sells cancer tests. Like, he is this is the question to ask this guy. It's like,
so he's already in the Matrix.
Oh. Yeah. For sure,
he's selling for pharma,
but the pharma he's selling for are, and I guess you should tell the story, is like he does thyroid cancer testing, and his cancer tests are 99.9% accurate, but they cost $10,000 because they're not covered by insurance. Right. And I'm sure if he watches this, I'm butchering this, but the idea that like the insurance companies won't cover that because it's an expensive test, so they'll give you a test that's like 60%. So yeah, he's in the Matrix, but like on the side of the human, not the side of the pharma. And I think he did a lot of pharma stuff and felt not so great about it, and like moved to this side, and now he lives in the Adirondacks and tries to live a quiet life, but part of that life is harvesting, killing, sustaining himself with freshwater fish and venison. So asking him that question, like, he's like, what do you think about it? And my answer was that what I just said is that if you stand back and look at things, there is a controlling entity that says, like, if you're self-sufficient, you're not a cog in the wheel. You're not plugged in, right? If you're growing your own food, if you're, harvesting your own food, if you're, fishing and stuff like that, you don't need to plug in. And if you're not plugged in, you're not a part of things. And that's a problem. Whether you believe that or not, what I believe, which is maybe I shouldn't be telling people what I believe because I don't want to be on the list someplace.
Oh, you're already on the list. Don't worry about that. Your beard did that.
And then looking at the PFAs a little bit closer, like, so I've, started reading about it and everything like that. It's, a lot of that is found in the belly meat of fish that nobody consumes, right? You're consuming the fillets, right? So,
it's in the fat. There was a lot of fat in the belly. Right.
And then going down the rabbit hole a little bit further, did you see the new food pyramid from the government?
No.
Where they put,
it's the most well, you shouldn't pay attention to that shit, but like people do, right? Ground beef is now on the bottom of the food pyramid. Like, do not consume if not needed, right? You know where Lucky Charms is? Fucking middle, right? So like the middle of the pack now is Lucky Charms, frosted sugar, wheat, like all that stuff that like you and I were just talking about the other day. Yeah. Right, frosted mini wheats is like high on the level of consumption, right? Do you like A, who's putting this shit out, right? B, who's listening to it, and C, like when you're eating like wheat and sugar and gluten and dairy, are you feeling good? Because I'm not.
Yeah,
I feel fine. I don't have the reaction from it that you guys do,
right?
But like I have reactions from other shit,
right?
And so like it's not invalid. It's good that you've listened to your body and the messages that it's sending you, and you have recognized and made the adjustments.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But
that's absolutely fucking upside down of where it is. I mean,
$1,000,000,000%.
I've lost 100 and how many pounds? I was 398. I was 225 this morning, and like 60 to 80 pounds of that weight loss was consuming 4 to 5 pounds of ground beef a day.
Yep. Yep.
A day.
Wow.
So don't tell me it's not good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But that's the message we're getting right now. It's not good for you.
But so I mean, there's a million directions you could take this, but all these different conversations, the place where the people that are impacted the most by all these sorts of things are the folks that don't have, it's all these disadvantaged communities, all these people that don't have the nuclear family. They don't have the support system at home. They don't get the top end education. And so you look at this and you're like, the people that are going to be given that food pyramid and said that this is what you should do are the people that are in the most need.
Yeah.
And that's in the cities of our country. It's in the rural places of our country. It's not in Pittsford. It's not in Honey Falls. It's not in Naples. Like, these communities are strong. You have pretty good financial situations. And that's the stuff that really drives me nuts, because it's like they wave all this stuff about it being like we have to take advantage of these disadvantaged areas, but yet we're continue to just keep those folks down.
Well, you guys know how expensive it is to eat clean. It's freaking
It is.
expensive as hell. But you can go through. You can go get any burger at a drive-through for $1 right now. You know.
But even as I've looked at that, so my kids like chicken nuggets and French fries. Shocking, their kids.
Isn't that interesting?
So we do that a lot, right? If I take both my kids to McDonald's and I get them both what they want with chicken nuggets and fries, I'm in it for $30, $35.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah,
I guess
it's
I haven't
super
gone to
expensive
McDonald's
now.
in a
Yeah.
long
So it's
time.
not cheap anymore either. And instead, like I what I could feed them with $35 to $40 here, they can I could feed them for 2 nights.
Yeah.
So I think when I was a kid, it definitely was that way, where it felt like it was the inexpensive and easy route was to go fast food. It was also to go the processed microwave, full like TV dinner, right? That turned into the microwave TV dinner, that turned into Easy Mac, that turned into all of this stuff, right? And all of that, I guess it has its place for certain people in certain situations. And it's because, I coming from the butchery world, from the restaurant world, we talk about this a lot too, is, in cities, they talk about food deserts, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's a really big issue, especially in a city like Rochester, dealing with places like Wegmans. But
that create those food deserts,
that create them, that try to put a public face and greenwash the whole thing.
Oh, greenwashing.
But long story short, but it also happens from an agricultural standpoint as well. I mean, all the food being produced in the center, most of the consumption being happening on the outsides, right? And now we're talking about what does it take to get food from A to B into the mouths of the people that need it, right? And so, all of these food inequities exist because of trying to set up systems that were easy to be able to feed as many people as efficiently as possible, right? And unfortunately, what we've lost to quality of food, quality of life, quality of understanding, attachment to food and what it is beyond just fuel, what it can mean to enjoyment, what it can, all of these ancillary things beyond just its core function of fuel. But people have lost that connection, and so that it's all just been done for the sake of efficiency. And so now we're at a point where there's this culinary apathy, and that was something that we tried to combat at the butcher shop. And I know it's something that hunters are actively trying to combat every single day when they're in the woods and they're trying to, because, seasons, right? Whether it's deer season bow or gun, or it's turkey or other fowl or various other seasons for various game, and where you're traveling to be able to hunt those things and all of that, right? And it's so that self-sufficiency is an interesting standpoint. But and you talked about it earlier too, the the ability to get things places, the ability to how much does it cost to get something somewhere? What was the ecological impact on getting it there? The monocrop farming that it took to produce certain things, the methane buildup, yes, for a big feedlot farm in the central plains of this country versus a farmer who is doing things in a regenerative,
local based,
right? Because that's a piece of the puzzle and that's one of the things I like about a guy like Jason, and I know that you get involved in things like this also, which is land management, right? A lot of
passionate about it. Yeah.
Well, a lot of beef farmers will tell you if they're grass feeding an animal, they'll tell you that they're not a beef farmer, they're a grass farmer, right? They're there to grow grass.
Yep.
Oh, by the way, that's just the fuel to feed the animals, right? And that regenerative impact that it has on soil and ecology in general all around is, I wish there was a way to scale that up, right? I wish there was a way to, because we were talking about electric cars and like the impetus is there, right? But like, how do you overcome the infrastructure hurdle to get to where we think is a better place for us ecologically, right? Well, how do we take that local regenerative model and scale it up? Nobody's found a way to do it yet, and venture capital seems like it's not exactly the best way to go about it, right? And so that's what's going on that end of the world. But from hunting, like you're talking about it, right? Like regulations on all kinds of different things, the ecological impact on the animal itself and what that does to your health.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about the PFAs, like it makes you wonder, I kill a deer that grew up here in ag land in Livingston County. That deer, literally the meat looks different. It tastes different than the deer that I kill in Naples 20 miles away that maybe saw a cornfield like once a week, maybe. Yeah. And then once the corn was gone, there was no agriculture. It's just eating like woody browse, and which would be like the tips of the branches,
sure,
and acorns and hickory nuts.
So
it's totally different.
So let's get right back to it. Like that question I asked you a while ago. Like, what is the culinary step that you're looking to take?
Me personally, for me, our family history, I mean, it's generations of hunters, but like my dad's generation with him and his brothers, they kind of got more into, it always used to be you shoot the deer, you take it to the processor. Yeah. And then when the processor was in Lima, New York, when that processor, he got old and retired, my dad and his brother said, well, we're going to have to start doing this ourselves because we're not going to stop this lifestyle. So they started butchering at the house I grew up at in my dad's garage. Called it the Bean Hill Meat Cutters, local 9638. That was the address. So that was like our joke. We had like a meat cutters union.
Love it.
Yeah. And so that's evolved to now, 25. Well, I'm 35. So this is probably going back 40 years that my family's been butchering deer. And, there's always evolutions and growing. But now as my brother and I are now in our 30s, and like each year we're getting more adventurous and trying new things instead of just doing, you always make a steak out of this and you always do this with this chunk of meat, like trying different things. And the big thing for me the last couple of years has been doing like cured meats like summer sausage and trying to do different things with link sausage in particular. And that adventure has just been so much fun because now it's stuff like before when you just did, you get out of an average sized deer, you might get 35, 40 pounds of meat on a 140 pound buck. And you're going to get your main cuts, your back straps, your roasts, and the rest of it you're going to burger. And then we would just do that. We just just grind it all. Yeah. And now, so instead of having just all this taco meat or making burgers, now it's like I go to cookouts and I'm the sausage guy. I'm either bringing...
Really?
Yeah.
Abe Probin?
Abe Probin. Sausage. He doesn't get this reference.
I don't get it
at all.
No.
Oh
no shot. He's 35. There's no way.
Ferris Bueller?
You're Abe Froman, the sausage king of Chicago.
Are you getting snooty? Snotty.
right over.
We're
my
gonna
head.
give you some homework
Okay,
assignments. All right?
so Ferris Bueller, I need to watch
Ferris
it.
Bueller's Day Off.
Okay,
just that scene.
I mean, it's.
I'll Google it.
Yeah.
I'm just not sure what kind of childhood you had anymore.
Yeah. He's just young.
VHS
big-
tapes.
Like that was the
Baby boy.
that was the blueprint for how to like stay homesick from school.
I remember watching it, but I guess I wasn't.
I'm excited for you.
Yeah, me too.
So, anyways, we're getting
I'm
back
disappointed.
But now it's me going. You know, my wife and I, we go to these cookouts and go and hang out with our friends at their pool during the summer. And
that's dope.
and I'm the guy bringing the homemade sausage, either summer sausage with crackers and cheese, and I'm bringing a roll up of sausage that now has got, you know, high temp cheese and peppers and onions in it.
How many people do you put that in front of that are just like, not for me?
I haven't had anybody refuse to.
Nobody,
eat that.
right?
No.
So where is the like? How do you get
Outwardly,
them
they
from,
might walk away.
Yeah, but and maybe it's that's how it is with me too. But like any piece of game that I put in front of somebody is like, I can't believe this is venison, or I can't. But like this is amazing. And how do you get them from like working backwards from like you just consumed venison and you like it to getting them like to harvest their own deer?
Yeah.
Which seems like a huge gap, but it's not really that big of a gap.
No,
Because any one of those guys would be like, hey man, can you help me? Like, can you help me hunt? And how many of those guys are you gonna say no to?
Right. I've gone through that with two of my best friends from high school. Neither of them had hunters in their family. They didn't. They never hunted, and went through the process with both of them. And the one, my buddy Connor Holly, lives right here in Honey Falls, and I took him hunting with me. He had hunted for a couple years, no success doing it on his own. And I took him for a walk on some state land down by our camp. And it was just a picture perfect day. And we walked all the way to the top of the mountain, 700-foot climb. Didn't really see a whole lot. We got towards the top of the hill and saw some fresh tracks. And I'm like, why don't you sit here? And I'm going to do a loop around the side hill and see if I can kick anything up to you. Nothing happened. I come back to him. So it's like midday. And don't we end up crossing over the logging road and come across, it was maybe a foot of snow, and there was a very good acorn crop that year. So when, the deer would just start digging, like they will just, it looks like they're just digging holes for
they
acorns.
need to go back,
Yeah. And on the front side of this hill that's got the sun shining on it, sunny day, and it was just picture perfect. And we come up on this fresh digging in the snow, and I go, Connor, there are deer. Like, they're here. Like, we're right behind them. So we just start stalking, and it wasn't 50 yards. We crest over the hill, and I see the ass of a deer facing away from us, head down. Just it wasn't even straight away. It was like quartering and almost broadside, and just head in a foot of snow eating. And I'm like, oh my god, like this is happening. Yeah. And I stayed behind him, coached him, and he went tree to tree, keeping trees between him and the deer. And he got to like 50 yards, braced on the tree with his. He had. It was open sights, single shot, 12 gauge, 20 gauge, and just double ringed it. Yeah. Perfect shot right behind the shoulder. The deer jumped and turned and ran maybe 15 yards, piled up, done. And like
was done before it knew it.
That emotion with him, like one of the kids, we were roommates in college, grew up I remember the day I met him, 3rd grade, like super close friends. All of a sudden that bond now that we have. And now I'm going to help him. We're processing his deer on the hill, getting the guts out. Mm-hmm. And then we drag it down this mountain, which these mountains down there, and put it in his car and go home with him to hang it in the garage. And then his kids are all excited. And then he takes it to the processor, and he ends up having, 25, 30 pounds of meat that they just devoured. Like they loved it. And he was hooked for life. Yeah. So like trying to, he had been exposed to that all along, but that jumping block to get himself into it, there's enough barriers to entry to it. But.
So it sounds to me like your excitement level is almost about kinship and sharing what you have, which is awesome, right?
That's where I've evolved to. For sure.
Once you plug somebody into that, it's it's the best. It's amazing.
And the preservation end of it, right? Like the summer sausage, right? So I look at hunting primal, right? Like it almost doesn't get any more primal than that. You are hunting to survive, to eat, right? What was the next step, right? It was either you have to consume everything that's in front of you, or you have to figure out how to make it last. And so, like, that necessity, and it's one of the things that I loved about butchery, and it's one of the things that that I loved about taking my culinary experience, my training as a chef, and applying it into butchery, is taking those things that we used to do strictly for necessity that are now a part of a quality of life, right? But taking those techniques and doing them justice and applying them to still be able to have these wonderful things, right? Summer sausage, most people they just think Pepperidge Farm, the weird gift that was regifted to them
It
3
just
times.
sits on the shelf. Yeah, right.
Yeah. But also if there's summer sausage cut up on a cutting board, everybody's going to reach for it.
Oh my God, yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah.
So that's a cool entry point. Making like snack sticks, cool entry point. And those are very approachable before you start going anywhere towards a fermented and dried, right? Like or anything along those lines. But when I worked for one of my mentors, we did a lot of venison processing, and we would just hand out like the menu, right? And it was, here's all the stuff that we're going to make for you. Yes, we're going to cut it 50-50 with pork, but everything from emulsified bolognas and hot dogs all the way down to fresh sausages, we would, cure and air dry mussels for people and stuff like that too, right? So like everything from your super approachable hot dog all the way up to like we were air drying legs, right?
Yeah.
So, all around the board. And that's like, how far can you take it? How far do you want to take it? How far how far should you take it? Like, or is venison simple and we can keep it that
I think
way?
it's everything.
Because that's where it's beautiful.
I think it's all that combined. I think it's, when I hear people, I don't think I can kill an animal. If you're eating meat, you're part of that process. Like it's happening on your behalf, one way or the other. Greg was saying the other day, Greg's like, I don't think I could ever kill an animal. And
he acknowledges it though.
But no, and it's not a bad thing. I think it's, which is better, being the assassin or being like paying the assassin? And then,
well, yeah, there's a guilt factor that people don't want a part of.
Yeah. And I think like, for me personally, I think you kind of, especially in the hunting world, you need to, there's no part of me that doesn't have remorse for that animal. I think that's the difference between, us as humans and the rest of nature, is nature has no remorse whatsoever. Like, go on Nature is Metal. You guys saw that? Nature is Metal? Just check that out and like realize that like nature is fucking brutal. What we're doing is pretty concise. And if the Lord gives me the choice to say, would you rather be a cow, a pig, or a deer? Give me the deer, because the deer is living its living its life. It is a good life, and it sure as shit isn't getting in line to watch all of its buddies slaughtered in front of it. It's going to die, hopefully, super fast by the hand of a well-trained marksman. Give me that life. Give me that death.
None of us are getting out alive.
None of us are. But the idea that like you're removing yourself from the process doesn't mean the process doesn't happen.
Yeah. That I always say that's the difference between being uneducated and ignorant is intention.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you are intentionally uneducated, you are ignorant.
Right.
So I try to like correct people when they're like, well, I'm a little ignorant to that. I'm like, okay, well, that means that you were trying to be that way. You don't want to learn about it.
Yeah.
If you just are uneducated, that's fine.
Yeah.
Let me teach you. Right. Let's figure out how to level you up just a little bit. Right.
How many people ask you for venison every year?
People ask me for it. A lot of times it's like, yeah, I'll bring it. And it's like, because I'm not just going to hand that stuff out to people that I feel like are just not. That's an interesting question. But like, there's people that say that they want meat.
Yeah.
And they have all the ability in the world. They might have hunted before, but they just don't. They can't get themselves to go out and do it.
There's a difference between like the elder that's hunted their whole lives.
No, but there's people I know that are fully capable.
Right.
That have They have the archery equipment. They have the gun, but they don't have the give a damn to go out and do it.
Yeah.
I have a hard time handing a package of meat over to that person because it's like, do you have any idea how hard
it's sacred.
I worked for that?
That meat is sacred to me.
Like my style of hunting is not going and sitting. Like I do hunt farmland, but it's not sitting over a field and just cherry picking deer.
Yeah.
I get excited about going up the side of mountains.
I enjoy the work. Yeah, he and I both enjoy the suffering, which I think is a part of it.
Killing a deer on the side of a mountain miles from a road and having to quarter it and process it in the field and carry it out, like that is primitive. Like you talked about earlier, like, and as I think it's as you become more aware and get older, like I was doing some of that stuff 6 years ago, but I wasn't really like life. I hadn't really started processing life yet. I feel like the birth of my children kind of changed my perspective of things.
It's funny, the Benjamin Button aspect of you get older, you get wiser. What you want is more simple. You dial everything way back. They
100%.
talk about quarterbacks in the NFL, how the game slows down. And like I definitely feel in my adult life pulling all of it back, right? It's not blinders. I'm still seeing it all. It's just where
I'm not going to get too worried about
what
that.
I'm focusing on and giving bandwidth to is just a lot different, right?
Yeah, for sure.
That's great, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the piece there. Like I think all of us are seeking something that can give us peace and give us time to think and like be comfortable with where we're at and what we're doing. And for me, it's become this adventure hunting, getting out in nature, doing things that are really, really hard. If I'm doing that and my friends are like, oh my God, like you're a billy goat. How'd you get up that hill? I'm like, I don't say anything, but I'm just like, you know what? It's because I work out 4 or 5 days a week all year long to train for this.
Yeah.
And that's why.
Yeah.
And you don't do any of that. Yeah. So I enjoy hearing you complain coming up the hill behind.
And this is a new aspect for myself as well, because after, I used my knee injury. I've had 3, not this one. You sons of bitches. You know what? Maybe I'll just go. I'll just leave.
There's some ice right out there. You could.
Whoa! Whoop! Slip and fall. How's your
just dip it right in.
homeowners insurance?
Just dip it. Just dip it in, baby.
So to talk about is that I had reconstructive knee surgery in the military, and I used that, like, no pun intended, as a big crutch. Like, oh, I can't do it. But then changing my diet, and then realizing like that, I have a dairy intolerance that causes inflammation, and I have a gluten intolerance that causes inflammation, and then cutting that stuff out and then losing a bunch of weight, I can fucking do anything.
Yep.
Right. And like, it's exciting to do anything. And like, I wonder how much of that, like, I missed out on that I want to see now. Like one of my fondest memories in the last year was like hauling that moose on my back off the mountain.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Like, 8,000, 9,000 feet, thin air. Like, that was a fucking cool experience.
Yeah.
And, like, you're living.
And like, I'm here for that too, right? Because if it's not hard, are you moving, right? Like, are you just on the treadmill?
Right.
Like, and there's something to be said about being on the treadmill, right? It's still working, but man, a goal, something that's hard, something you got to push yourself for, something that is, that requires the word achievement, right? I'm here for.
Yep.
Yeah, and that can be hiking up a mountain to find the spot to get your kill. That could be getting your kill out of the wild back to where you're going to consume.
Pemmican could be anything that, like,
it could be getting your kids ready to get to school in the morning. It could be so many different things, and it for me, finding the ability to enjoy purpose in the ways that I haven't defined it before is important, because I am a go-do. I am a provide for. I've never hunted in my life, but I am a provider.
That's going to change.
I want to make sure that everyone who is important to me has everything that they need at any given point. And if they don't, I've already got a plan for it, and it's in the works.
Yeah.
That's just me, right? And like, so goals, boom. You just got to have them.
Yeah.
Well, talking to my 19-year-old daughter today is doing a working interview at a veterinary clinic, right? So big deal. This is what she wants to do. This is like, and me the other day, like, and I know I'm being a nag, but I'm like, make sure that you do a little grocery shopping and you have like, 'cause she deals with like, she gets hangry, she gets mad when she's hangry, and I'm like, make sure you're setting yourself up like days beforehand. Like, do your laundry, do this stuff. Make sure you're adjusting your sleep schedule, all those things. And it's like, I'm not saying that to her because like this, like, do as I say, not as I do, because I've adjusted all those things and become more successful because of them. And I'm trying to like, pass that along to her, which, I mean, she's pretty kick ass as it is already, but it is these little things that you set yourself up for that make attaining those goals so much easier, and putting yourself outside of like that comfort zone of like, I somewhere along the line that it's been sticking with me forever is comfort wants you dead. Like, the more comfortable you are, it's probably because you're not in the right spot. If you're not over your head a little bit, you're probably not swimming right. And like all those things that like you put yourself into over and over again that break you a little bit, make you grow on the other end, which I think is what we're here to do. I'm like, we're not here to, to be complacent and look at things like, and I thought about this morning, I'm like, what am I scared of right now? What am I not doing right now that I should probably be doing? And how do I tackle that? And, that's my next goal for, like, next week is like, what am I doing that I'm not doing right now that I should be doing?
Yep.
Well,
what we did today was have a nice conversation.
It was a beautiful conversation.
I smell sausage cooking.
Oh, that was me. I'm sorry.
Was that a Ferris Bueller joke, or is that no? I don't know. Just wondering.
No, that's just me being me.
Okay,
that's what. So if anybody is watching or heard, or I when I got up and walked away, it's not because I didn't want to listen to Jason. I was turning the sausage over in the pan.
You brought us sausage.
Yeah, so we have some of your sausage that you were excited to share. So since we're not going to share it with everybody that's on there, I mean, what did you make?
So that is chorizo, venison sausage.
Yeah.
So and I think that has a cheese in it.
Okay.
I'm not sure what cheese, and it might be Swiss.
Mm-hmm.
Our cheese selection was a little off this year. We sent Dad to get the stuff, and I'm like, Swiss?
The old Swiss
like, I want a
chorizo.
pepper jack.
Yeah.
So, but it still tastes good.
Yeah.
Of course.
And I'll just power through the 15 pounds of it that I have that I'm not unhappy with the way it tastes.
This is stuff you give away.
No.
This is the stuff where it's like,
I was going through the thing. You're right, because I was going through the freezer this morning. I was like, not that one. No.
This is the stuff.
This will be good enough for the boys.
When we were talking about we were talking about it is like giving away venison. It's like, if you're asking me for venison and you're not like an elderly person, like, and you have the capability to hunt, or your husband has the capability to hunt,
that's sexist that you would say that.
It totally is, and I probably shouldn't have said it. But like, if you have the ability to obtain venison on your own and you're asking me for it, it makes me think a lot less of you.
And there it is.
So what do you?
I just don't ask.
Yeah.
No,
so that I can maintain my integrity.
I read somewhere, if you're not invited, don't ask to go. Which was like a really,
sure.
And I think I readily give you venison.
100%. You offer it all the time.
And intentionally so, because I want you. It's like the first one's free.
Yeah.
I was like, this stuff's pretty good.
Yeah.
And then all
start
of a sudden,
scratching your neck.
I don't know if you know this too, Roby.
Yeah.
This is not the first time I tasted venison.
But I had venison.
I can't stop thinking about it. Yeah. So
I'm excited to eat that. That's for sure. I mean, like, we gave that a nice little like low and slow treatment in the cast iron.
Yeah, I'm pretty
while
fired
we've been
up
doing
about that.
Yeah, man. So I'm excited to munch on that for a second. But I appreciate you coming by, man.
Yeah.
I can't wait to like pick your brain a little bit more about some of the process you've been through, with creating your podcast and going on the road and getting guests and uploading things. There's so many like technological questions that I have as I'm going through this process too. So I'm excited to go through that.
Yeah,
with you too.
I hope to do more of this with you guys. This conversation was super easy.
Yeah.
And it's fun to sit down with people, and because there's no distraction.
Mm-hmm.
We're just having a conversation about, we had no idea what we were going to talk about. And that's the sort of stuff I love. Like, just, you don't know what you're going to open up. You don't know what you're going to learn about each other. And it's a beautiful thing. So I appreciate you guys having me on.
Appreciate having you, my man.
I didn't get the memo about the flannels today. You guys were.
I'm surprised you're like the flannel guy.
I'm breaking molds, pal.
And I was also concerned, like you have an orange one that I really, really like, and so when I bought this one, I was like, shit, we're gonna have to coordinate. Make sure.
Nice one. I'm getting away from flannels. Yeah, because everybody thinks I wear them all the time.
I mean,
And
you do.
You haven't seen me in flannel in months.
Not true.
True.
When I came over and cut perch with you, you were wearing a flannel, a red one.
Oh yeah,
That's only.
But that was an outdoor
different.
jacket.
So
That's a 1940s Woolrich.
You don't have to explain yourself.
That's my perch cutting flannel. You don't suck shit about that.
outdoor fashion tips from Jason Ellsworth coming up on the next meeting.
I got it.
That's some special effects.